Vice principals or principals, they may be reassigned to teach classes.
Tonight, it's back to school time, but Nunavut is again facing a shortage of teachers.
Bed bugs, cockroaches, vermin, things that the city is saying makes Tent City unsafe, but the housing that they're offering have the equivalent problems.
A tent city keeps growing as Vancouver struggles to find adequate housing.
It's who I am. I have to tell my story, and I have to tell the story of Indigenous people here.
And an artistic expression of 200 years of history on the Yukon River. Good evening, welcome to APTN National News. I'm Dennis Ward. At the end of summer every year, kids return to school. And every year in Nunavut, there aren't enough teachers to fill all of the available teaching jobs. Our Kent Driscoll wanted to find out what the shortage means for the students and why it happens every year.
Schools are open, but not operating as designed. The Education Department says they need more teachers.
Currently, we have approximately 56 vacant teaching positions.
That's 56 out of near 680 total teachers spread out in all of Nunavut's communities. That's an improvement over previous years, where some classes were delayed in order to get a teacher for the students.
This year, we were actually able to open all schools as scheduled and on time without closing classes, so we're more positive this year.
So the doors are open, but what does being short 56 teachers mean to the students and staff? It means that no matter what your job is in a Nunavut school, you're likely to end up teaching too.
So for example, vice principals or principals, they may be reassigned to teach classes. Or teachers who do not have a homeroom, such as student support teachers or learning coaches, they may be reassigned to homeroom classes.
Hull Beach, Arctic Bay, Cambridge Bay, and Clyde River need the most teachers. But moving to a remote Nunavut community can be a hard sell to a southern hire. This problem comes up every year. Long term, the solution is to create more teachers in Nunavut.
We have reached out this past May to all of our high school students in grade 10, 11, 12 and provided them with information packages and opportunities to what it looks like to become a teacher and what that pathway may look like.
Nunavut is unique in Canada. Every community is a fly-in. There's no road access to the south. You pay more for food, and the internet is lousy. But the job has its own rewards.
Working in Nunavut, you have amazing opportunities to work with our students, experience a vibrant culture. You have access to educational and professional development opportunities, opportunities to work and learn with our students, with our elders.
Nunavut faces shortages in almost every professional field, from doctors to accountants. But nowhere is it a bigger deal than in education. Through education is where those new doctors and accountants are going to get their start. So a shortage in education is a shortage everywhere. Kent Driscoll, APTN National News, Iqaluit.
To Ottawa now, where the Green Party went after the federal government's seemingly cozy relationship with the nuclear industry. In a particular proposed waste dump that could affect the drinking water of 2 million people. APTN's Todd Lamoran was at the party's campaign-style press conference on a beach in Ottawa.
A small flotilla provided the backdrop as 3 Green Party candidates voiced their opposition to a planned nuclear waste dump. Algonquin Lorraine Reckman said it's disrespectful to put the river at risk.
There's no liability insurance in the world that would cover the type of disaster we would face if nuclear waste contaminated the Ottawa River.
Chalk River is a nuclear laboratory, and it's 880 kilometers northwest of Ottawa. Canadian Nuclear Laboratories wants to build a near-surface disposal facility for non-fuel nuclear waste nearby, but it'll be a kilometer from the river.
This mound, as they call it, will cover the area of 70 NHL hockey rinks and be 7 stories high. It will hold 1 million cubic meters of radioactive waste. It will be a giant nuclear landfill.
The facility will deal with waste already at Chalk River. Reckmans agrees waste should be dealt with on site, but with neutral, scientific oversight.
Nuclear industry, it's usually a cut and run. It's the quickest, cheapest solution to get it done and get out.
She admits that new technologies are needed to contain the waste for the hundreds of years necessary.
It's not the end of the story. I think we can't treat it like the end of the story, like wrap it up in a big bow and walk away. That's never going to happen. So as we go forward into the future, right, we'll have solutions.
And in the meantime, protesters and candidates oppose transporting even more waste to Chalk River.
They are already transporting truckloads of that nuclear waste from Manitoba, from Quebec, from southern Ontario, and even from the United States to Chalk River.
And candidates took special note of the company that heads up a consortium currently running Chalk River, SNC Lavalin.
This is too important a job to be handed to SNC and corner-cutting, profit-seeking foreign corporations with dubious ethical background.
The planned disposal facility will take waste for 50 years. Canadian Nuclear Laboratories claims it should last for an additional 500 years. Todd Lamrand, APTN National News, Ottawa.
And we'd like to hear what you have to say. Here's how to continue the conversation. Send your emails to news@aptn.ca. Find us online at aptnnews.ca and on youtube.com/aptn news. You can also follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram for the latest Indigenous news. On Wednesday, the Assembly of First Nations executive members voted to suspend Regional Chief Morley Gugu with pay. The decision was made in Vancouver at the AFN Forum on Cannabis. A third-party investigation in 2018 found that Gugu engaged in direct discrimination against former Nova Scotia Native Women's Association President Cheryl Maloney and other Mi'kmaq women. Gugu says he is cooperating with the current AFN investigation, which he calls a distraction. Cheryl Maloney says she doesn't hold much hope that anything will be done.
The AFN is not going to get that level of evidence because the women aren't going to feel safe and free and protected to speak to them. And I don't know if they want to. So I think it's kind of a waste of their time. But unfortunately, he's a powerful man. He has money, can hire lawyers. I've been trying for a year to get a lawyer, and I can't.
A tent city in downtown Vancouver has grown in numbers over the last few months. Since then, local residents say the increase in crime and safety issues has become a concern. Just over 2 weeks ago, the city announced evictions, but also offered housing solutions to the more than 100 people who call Oppenheimer Park home. However, as APTN's Tina House explains, not everyone is happy about the accommodations being provided.
This is Oppenheimer Park, a place that normally hosts events and festivals for people in the community. But now it's become a safe haven for those sleeping on the streets. The city said an increase in fires, violence, and drug dealing at the site has forced them to close the tent city. For Vanessa, who used to stay here, she says there is no easy solution to the problem.
How are we supposed to rebuild our lives when we're constantly dealing with crisis after crisis that's avoidable and created by the housing provider themselves?
Campers were offered to move into one of the 140 subsidized units and shelter beds the city said were made available. Almost 2 weeks after the deadline, many people have chosen to stay or return to the park. Chrissy Brett, a local activist and part-time resident of the park, says some of the rooms offered were just not adequate.
Bed bugs, cockroaches, vermin, things that the city is saying makes tent city unsafe, but the housing that they're offering have the equivalent problems. And actually we don't have bed bugs and we don't have the same bug problems in tent city as some of the SROs.
In addition to the health concerns, Many here say the single-room occupancy housing offered wasn't a good long-term solution for the park residents. Shane Steinhauer, a father of 5, says he wouldn't take the city's offer.
It's a place where I can't have my kids, so no. They need to be given housing that is according to the people, not to their benefits or their likings.
He says although it's not perfect, the park is a better option for him at the moment. Despite the non-compliance, the City of Vancouver says it will continue to work within the park, along with BC Housing, to offer space at shelters within Vancouver for the remaining residents. Chrissy Brett appreciates the city's effort, but says that there are things the housing made available just can't offer.
All Canadians deserve the most basic human rights, and if we need to create Canadian refugee camps here in Canada, then let's do that. Let's provide showers, let's provide running water, let's provide electricity, let's provide tents that are livable tents.
It's estimated that there are roughly 5,000 people that are homeless in the city of Vancouver. And despite the eviction order, neither the city or the Vancouver Park Board has sought a court injunction to remove the people in Oppenheimer Park. Tina House, APTN National News, Vancouver.
Time to step aside for a quick break, but stick around. There's more to come. Here's a look at Friday's weather forecast, starting on a sunny east coast. 20 for Fredericton, 19 for Charlottetown. Rain in Nain with a high of 9. Rain and 12 for Happy Valley Goose Bay. Partly cloudy and 21 in Montreal, 15 under the sun for Chibougamau. 22 in London and Toronto, showers, and 20 for Ottawa. Showers and 18 in Thunder Bay, 17 with rain for Sioux Lookout and Wawa. 16 under sunny skies for the Pas, 12 and showers for Thompson. 22 with showers for Winnipeg and Gimli, 23 under sunny skies in Brandon. 24 with the sun out in Regina, 22 for Estevan and Saskatoon. 14 under sunny skies for Uranium City and Stony Rapids. Welcome back. Earlier this summer, Ontario approved 8 First Nations to apply for on-reserve cannabis stores. But leaders are saying both the feds and the province are ignoring First Nation jurisdiction as they roll out their legalization plans. As Willow Fiddler reports, communities are going ahead and exploring their own opportunities.
Sarah Mainville calls it a typing test. On July 31st at 9 a.m., the Ontario government began taking applications from First Nations who wanted to open up a licensed cannabis store on reserve. But they were only giving out 8 licenses, and it was a first-come, first-served basis.
So what happened was you sort of have these diversity of First Nations who some who just gambled, some just gambled and said, well, let's try it. If there's an opportunity, let's try it. And there are other First Nations that have been, like some of my clients have been working on this for 2 years. We're very ready to do this. And unfortunately, they lost the typing test, which it basically was. This application was a typing test.
Mainville is an Anishinaabe lawyer helping communities find their place in the cannabis industry. She says the province is not meeting the needs of First Nations.
The clients that I was working with were saying, hold on a minute. We watched gaming happen 30 years ago, and we don't agree that the provincial government should be delegated the authority and be the only authority about gaming licenses. And if they're following that model for cannabis, we won't agree. We're just going to assert our own inherent jurisdiction and control cannabis ourselves and get involved in seed to sale enterprise by licensing our own businesses.
Former Ontario Regional Chief Isidore Day agrees. He's the CEO of Bemadzawin, a company that is also helping First Nations get into the industry.
Within the confines of that retail space, they'll obviously have to follow provincial guidelines and rule. However, the community is also saying, don't forget about us. Just because that one store is under provincial retail, we basically don't want to be and we can't because we don't have a license.
Ontario has limited First Nations to 1 license each and has allocated only 8 licenses so far.
We recommend that you not only look at the provincial license, but you also ensure that you protect the rights and jurisdiction of the community to participate in that economy.
Day says he's working to get the federal government to recognize First Nations jurisdiction and laws in a federal framework.
In order to stay legitimate and to access the market, you need to have those pieces in place. Community law will always be important if we assert our jurisdiction.
Wabigoon Lake Ojibwe Nation is looking at its options for their tree nursery plant that is no longer making them money.
If the cannabis operation proves to be more economical as a business for the community, creates more job creation and helps the community become more prosperous, and I think it's something that the community and chiefing councils should explore.
Williams says they'll make a decision based on what their membership tells them. Pierce Brown is a cannabis user and welcomes the idea.
We could really have a big business and bring big money to our community and do many more things with that money. But I think we're moving too fast, a little too fast, and I think we should get a general education on cannabis before we step into the industry, because it's a big industry.
Nicholas Piccinese is also a cannabis user and agrees that there needs to be more education.
And what happens is it creates a lot of misunderstanding about the drug and the people who use the cannabis. And what happens is it creates like a fear of those people and causes a divide, mostly between youth and older people.
Both Day and Mainville say addressing community fears and stigmas around cannabis is part of the process.
Every room that I've been in, there's always someone that's very, very frightened about the impacts of drugs and alcohol in the community and is very apprehensive about allowing a cannabis store in the community. You need to talk to them. You need to explain to them illegal cannabis is illegal cannabis, and there's all kinds of dangers for illegal cannabis, but there's a legalized system that the product is safe.
Mainville says she hopes to see the province open up the applications to any First Nation who wants to get licensed. Willow Fiddler, APTN National News, Thunder Bay.
There's a new look on the campus of Laurentian University in Sudbury. Students, staff, and visitors will now see signage in 3 languages. It's part of a $48 million revamp at the school. Here's CTV's Molly Fromer with that story.
English, French, and Anishinaabe language will now be seen across the university grounds.
It presented itself as we were looking at new wayfinding at the institution to line up with our tricultural mandate and through the advocacy of our Laurentian University Native Education Council.
Laurentian is located on the territory of the Robinson-Huron Treaty of 1850, and Morph Rappier says the new look was a long time coming.
In Germany, you would see signs in German. So you are on the traditional territory of the Tikmishing Anishinaabe, so you're going to see signs in Anishinaabe. I think that's what you would see in any other kind of place of origins. That's what we're trying to do here as well.
This university staff member speaks all 3 languages and says it's vital that all 3 are seen everywhere.
Something that I've seen in literature and in some of the research that's been done is that you want to see the language everywhere that you are, like in the home, in the workplace, in the community, in the schools.
The new changes are part of Laurentian's 2023 strategic plan, which officials say aims at making the university the school of choice for Northern, Francophone, and Indigenous students.
I think it's really great to be able to have the English, the French, and the Anishinaabe signage as well, just because we are a trilingual university, so I think it's good to kind of show that as soon as you walk into campus.
I think it's great just having open communication and relations between, all sorts of different cultures and just having a more inclusive university.
It's a lot more diverse for the university community.
University officials say there will be more than 1,000 signs in 9 different buildings on the campus that will now be labeled in all 3 languages. Molly Fromer, CTV News, Sudbury.
A number of Indigenous people have been honored with the Order of Canada. We'll let you know who after the break. Here's the rest of Friday's weather forecast, picking back up in northern Alberta. 16 with showers for Peace River, sunny and 18 in Fort McMurray. Showers and 25 for Medicine Hat, 25 under sunny skies for Red Deer, a sunny day, and 24 for Victoria, Vancouver, and Campbell River. 19 under the sun for Dease Lake, 23 and sunny for Prince George. 18 is the high under sunny skies for Old Crow, 20 for Dawson, Mayo, and Whitehorse. Showers and 16 for Fort Liard, Trout Lake, Fort Simpson, and Wrigley. 6 is the high for Sax Harbor, 17 in Fort McPherson. 7 in Repulse Bay, 8 for Chesterfield and Arviette, 5 in Arctic Bay, 6 in Igloolik. Welcome back. A unique partnership in Whitehorse brings 200 years of history on the Yukon River to life through visual arts. One artist involved is using her art to bring an Indigenous perspective. The 3-week Chuni Kwan artist residency is put on by the Kwanlin Dun Cultural Center, the Yukon Art Center, and Yukon Art Society. Shirley Adamson is an elder from Teslin First Nation and one of the 3 Yukon artists involved in the collaboration. Adamson says being able to showcase her paintings is a great way to share her personal story with the public.
It's who I am. I have to tell my story, and I have to tell the story of Indigenous people here. Life on the river didn't begin when the first paddle wheeler went down or the first stampeder went down. We look at the river in a whole different way, and if we don't tell our story from our perspective, then it's somebody else's interpretation of our story, and that's why we end up with empty rivers and empty boats and contaminated rivers choked with plastic bottles.
Governor General Julie Payette honored the latest recipients of the Order of Canada, and that included 4 Indigenous people getting the nod today. Deanna Hamilton is a member of West Bank First Nation in British Columbia. She was made an officer of the order for helping her community achieve greater economic independence through a unique tax code and access to off-reserve capital. Thomas Dignan, a Mohawk physician from 6 Nations, became a member of the order for the use of traditional knowledge in his practice and for advocating equal access to education for Indigenous people. Keith Knott is the former chief of Curve Lake First Nation in Ontario. He was honored for beefing up essential services there, especially for a health center with an on-site doctor. And Maxine Noel is a renowned Oglala Sioux artist from the Birdtail Reserve in Manitoba. Her art explores the challenges faced by Indigenous women and was a driving force behind the establishment of what are now the Inspire Awards. And congrats to all of them. That is your APTN National News for this Thursday. For more, visit our website, aptnnews.ca, and stay up to date with the latest by downloading the APTN News app. I'm Dennis Ward. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you back here tomorrow.